Hi guys, and welcome to the TruGolf Academy. You've joined me, Jon Watts, today at Drayton Park Golf Club. I'm in my swing studio and I was just hitting a few looseners before thinking about what videos I'm going to record today, and I thought I'd actually do one on what I'm working on in my golf swing. So I haven't really played. I've been on holiday for 10 days. I'd had a busy sort of build up with lessons beforehand, haven't really played. I've got out, I think, for a couple of holes with lessons this week and dusted the sort of the cobwebs off, but haven't really practiced, haven't really played for best part of a month. And I start seeing a ball flight similar to what we're looking at on the screen. I just thought it may be interesting for you guys to hear what I'm trying to work on in my golf swing and why, in case you've got a similar fault or similar faults in there, and maybe I can help correct that with what I'm working on in my golf swing. So I just want to show you these numbers for a second. I'll also bring up my swing, so you'll see just a slow-mo of my swing going through. I tend to end up with, not a perfect setup in terms of spine angle. I'd like to improve that, but pretty good setup position. My takeaway, club face position, backswing always tends to be in shape, but my downswing tends to be led too much with my upper body, starting the downswing. And it gets a little steep. I try and shallow it out. When I do try and shallow it out a touch, letting the club trying to drop behind me, I tend to hit them a little bit more out the toe. But looking through the numbers, you can just see how incredibly steep I am here. This is with a 7-iron. So 8.5 degrees on the way down, and I really want that figure to be more like 4 degrees, a good half of that. So I tend to hit down on it too much when I'm not concentrating. Launch angle drops sort of 17 degrees with a 7-iron. I'd probably want that closer to 18, 19, maybe a little bit more. You can see the dynamic loft on the golf club. 24 degrees and just under 25 degrees. This starts with 32 degrees aloft on. I like a figure where I'm de-lofting it down to about 27. When I start getting it down to 24s, 25s, I know it's because I'm really hitting down into it a little bit too much, a little too steep. You can see swing path, relatively minimal. I'm 2 degrees into out. But when I get a little steep on it, I tend to leave this club face open. So this was the last shot I just hit. Strike was okay. You can see when I get a little steep, the toe starts digging in a little lower than the heel, so my clubs need to be more upright. But my path is okay. Club face is a touch open, but the loft is very low because of this angle of attack. So, as I said, my fault is really from a pretty good backswing position, just that start of the downswing being led too much with my upper body. So the real fix with time to work on it is trying to work on a little bit of better lower body mechanics to shallow that club. I guess what I actually tend to try and do when I'm on the golf course, what works for me, I find it very hard working on what I'd class as an internal swing thought, so working on a body position, a knee, a hip, an elbow. I find it easier focusing on this club head, which you would class as an external swing thought. And I did a video on the difference between internal and external, and I'll put a link to it in this video here, so please check that one out. So what I try and do, and it does work for me, is when I'm at the top of the backswing, I try and get the feeling I'm throwing that club away from me, almost casting the club, trying to create a bit more width. What that does is it keeps sort of my back facing the target a little longer, gives me a little bit more time for my arms to catch up with my body. When I get it bad, it's this way, so my pressure's going down and left and I get a little steep on it. So I'm just trying to get that feeling of almost staying behind it longer by throwing the club a little bit more away from me. So my thought is at the top of the backswing to almost throw the club away from me. You can see from a face-on position here, that keeps my back facing the target a little longer rather than this move where my trail shoulders tends to dive at the ball, my trail elbow tends to move this way a little bit inwardly towards the golf ball. So I really want to try and obviously keep it a little bit more external so the club would shallow out a little bit more. But the way I do it is throwing that club away from me. Let's give it a go. Let's see if I can and try and put that swing thought into it and see if we can get some better numbers in terms of the angle of attack. So I'm really going to get that feeling of throwing the club away, almost my thumbs throwing that club, pushing that club away from me on the downswing to really help me shallow it and create a better path. Let's give it a whirl. Still leaking right, so the club face was open. Much higher ball flight. You can see finished in a pretty similar area, but actually felt a better angle of attack. I'm sure it won't be as much down. Let's have a quick peek. So I was hitting down on it 8.1, 8.9. That last one was 4 degrees. So in my head, I'm hitting up on it, but you can actually see the reality is I'm still down. I'm just half the figure down. My swing path gets more in to out. So instead of very minimal here, I get a little bit more extreme, which really helps me control the flight. I'd prefer to play with a shape. So when I get it on my game, I can hit more of a draw shape from there that you can see with that path, 4 degrees in to out, 4 degrees on the way down. On this particular occasion, I just left the club face a little bit open, but you can see loft much, much higher. I mean, I was really trying to get that feeling, but only de-lofted it by 1 degree instead of, my maths isn't good enough here, 8 degrees on the way down. So a huge, huge difference. Higher launch angle, a little less backspin. Similar distance and things, and actually this one was a similar direction, but it felt a hell of a lot better to me that I don't get that club too much on the way down, too stuck. Too steep on the way down, and really getting it here where I feel like very jammed up. So some exercises for me, a good one for my swing path to get me more into out, that resets me a little bit, is playing the ball back in my stance and trying to drop the club a little bit more on the inside, shallow it out and try and hit draws and hooks. So let me just hit this one for you. So I tend to do some exercises playing the ball back, which, yes, will get steeper, but is a good one for swing path for me. So you can see a ball flight, started right, bent left, didn't bend enough actually. But you'll see a swing path a lot more in to out, so it really helps me, that feeling 12 degrees in to out. So it's a real extreme one for me, but it is good, works well. And the other one, you won't see this ball flight actually. I've just got it a little bit too close to my GC2. But it's just actually hitting some irons off a high tee peg. So a driver tee peg and hitting some 7 irons. And I've really got to feel like I stay behind it and hit more on the way up. Otherwise, I'm just going to be hitting down. And actually on these rubber tees, I'm just going to start breaking them. I'm going to be hitting down too much. So really going to get that feeling of hitting more up on the golf ball. So I feel like I have to stay a little bit more behind it with my upper body. I have to give myself a little bit more time to be able to strike it, just like I did there. So pretty good contact. So some exercises I tend to do is warming up a little bit off a high tee peg, doing some exercises where I'm playing the ball back, trying to draw or hook it, because my bad ones are pulls and fades really. And the other swing feeling for me is really trying to get that club throwing away from me, like my back's facing the target a little longer to stop me getting too steep. If you're a fader slicer, pulling the golf ball, flighting it too low because you're hitting down on it too much, taking big divots, part of this will really be relevant for you, so you can pick your bones out of it, and some of those exercises may really help you too. Give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy the content of this video, if you did enjoy a bit of an insight into what I'm doing in my golf swing. Post some comments and questions below. Let me know how you're getting on, what you're working on, what videos you'd like to see as well. Thanks guys, we'll see you soon.